even commercial real estate is short of liquidity. The crisis in residential is much more acute. So the overall requirement of working capital shot up 3x. NBFCs are in difficulty. Banks are not willing to lend into the residential real estate side, and RERA is not really being able to solve the past. The present and the future is being taken care of. The banks were equally at fault for not doing their due diligence.
A lot of orders are being passed, but execution on the ground is a big issue.
See, whenever the markets are down, it's very difficult to find easy solutions. Defaults for home loans in India is less than 2%. The total number of apartments across India which is in difficulty equals Noida and Greater Noida.
Hi, welcome to the Property Show. I'm Jayashree Kurup. I'm editor MBTV. I have with me Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani. He represents the Hiranandani Group, NAREDCO, ASSOCHAM, one of the movers and shakers of our industry. As far as commercial real estate funds go, there is money there to build commercial real estate. What about residential?
First of all, the overall liquidity in the market is low. The REITs is just but a little part of it. And remember, REIT has only happened in the case of one company, one transaction. That's not India for you. So even commercial real estate has a crisis. So it's not an easy story to say that commercial is okay and this is not, except for the difference being that there are a lot of external funds and private equity which seem to be more comfortable at the present time with commercial real estate.
Because of the ROI?
So not only because of the ROI, if they accumulate commercial real estate over a period of time, they don't have to go to another person to sell the property. They go to another person to invest into the property. So there is a hand-holding from A to B to C. That's how the commercial real estate has the additional money. Even commercial real estate is short of liquidity, and except for the big picture, it's not really true. The crisis in residential is much more acute. If you take the position relating to post demonetization, RERA, insolvency law, etc., which took place, all this combined provided a problem in relating to requirement of more money for the same project. Also because of the escrow mechanism, also because of the GST being high, people postponed their buying of the property. So the overall requirement of working capital shot up 3x. Presently, this was taken care of by the NBFC, which again got money from the banks and mutual funds. Today, there is nobody there. NBFCs are in difficulty. Banks are not willing to lend into the residential real estate side. A combination of this is really put a crisis into the residential real estate market. The problem which is further compounded, that the buyer wants to postpone buying. He or she says, I want to get an OC. I want to get an OC because it also gives me zero GST. I want to wait because there's a lot of availability in the marketplace, so I have a choice. So all this put together has created a very, very serious crisis in terms of liquidity. From the consumer point of view, it's fantastic. But the developer is definitely in a crisis-like situation, and we need to find other means by which we can raise funding for the purposes of the residential real estate market, and that is what we are looking for.
So have the industry bodies been asking for anything specific to help tide this period?
We've asked for a rationalization of GST, partly of which has been approved, which is 5% and 1%. We've also asked for a policy to be created for rental housing, and we are expecting that to happen in the next 3 to 6 months. We're also asking for changes in the taxation issues, namely like 43CA, where there is a tax if you on a notional rent when you have to keep a flat empty, or a capital gains tax issue under 43CA, which means that if I sell at less than 5% of the ready reckoner rate, so if I want to reduce my price of the flat by more than 5% of the ready reckoner rate, the buyer and I both have to pay an additional tax to the income tax department. Now, on one side, you want prices to fall to make it more affordable, and on the other side, you have a law, income tax law, which penalizes you if you reduce the price. So a combination of all this is a crisis of confidence, a crisis of liquidity, which I think we are trying to sort out by requesting the Reserve Bank of India, the banking scenario, the government in the finance ministry to provide additional funds for the purposes of the housing industry, especially those companies which are in crisis.
The last time there was a lot of mismanagement of funds, and which is why this whole risk has gone up. What safeguards can be put in so that this sort of problem does not arise, or will organizations like RERA will take care of it?
RERA has got dual responsibility. One, for new projects, wherein the buyer is fully secured because the entire amount of money is escrowed, 70% is escrowed, only 30% can be used, and it can be used only for that specific project. But in the case of the old projects, which is inherited by RERA, because it started before that, the monies were never escrowed. It was not requirement to do so. So there's no question of safeguarding funds of the buyer. Also the fact that because of various changes which took place, especially in Noida and Greater Noida, we had the problem of funds being diverted to buy more lands rather than paying for the lands, etc. And that created another crisis which is taking place, which is huge and it's unbelievable. So what has really gone wrong is that the crisis which has taken place of the past has accumulated in the present, and RERA is not really being able to solve the past. The present and the future is being taken care of.
With RERA, with NCLT, with NCDRC, a lot of orders are being passed. But execution on the ground is a big issue.
See, whenever the markets are down, it's very difficult to find easy solutions. So solutions are not easy. So even if an order is passed, let's presume that the project is taken over by the group of buyers. How do they complete it? Where do they get the liquidity? Where do they get the expertise of construction? Where do they get legal help? Where do we get the architectural work? Where do they get the liaison to be able to get the approval of the balance plan? All these are severe challenges, but these will be met. It's not something that it always look humongous unless you don't take the first step. So my view is personally that we will have to start this execution, and that is now starting. But obviously it's not an easy thing to do. When some khichdi is spoiled, to rectify the khichdi is not easy. But make a good khichdi, it's easy. But if you have got a bad product already created or a bad project created, to rectify is certainly a crisis.
Is this market sorting itself out into a smaller, tighter, more serious players?
There are players who would come in because they found easy money in the real estate market, and they found easy profits in the real estate market, and they really didn't know what the real estate industry was all about. So all they said is, oh, we buy the land, we have the money, we buy the architect, we buy the contractor, we buy whoever it is there, and consumers line up dime a dozen to buy the projects. That, of course, has changed. So when they change, the people who are used to easy profits and easy money will exit from the market. Rationalization takes place in every industry. Will definitely have consolidation. I think a part of it is taking place in the real estate. But India is huge. It's very big. So you can't expect consolidation pan-India. But in every place, the good players and the better players and the players who are more smart, not necessarily big, but more smart and lean and mean and thin, are able to think fast. Those are the ones which are going to survive, not necessarily the big players.
Right. In fact, the big players are the ones who have faltered in the North Indian markets.
In the North Indian market, it's the big players who have got bigger defaults than the small players. The rest of the country, it's not so. I think the bigger players still have been able to overcome the negatives of the marketplace. So Delhi and Noida is an exception.
The banks were on the committee of creditors, but the banks did not see the things falling apart. Was the bank not responsible as well?
There was a herd mentality to follow a particular path. The banks were equally at fault for not doing their due diligence when they had the capabilities of doing so. So I think they are equally at fault. But they are not only at fault. I've known people in Noida and Greater Noida who have that capacity to buy one apartment. But the brokers persuaded them to buy 4, saying that we will help you to sell 3, so you will get 1 apartment with interiors free of cost by doing that. Now the person didn't have the capacity to buy, barely be able to buy 1. They've invested in 4. They have borrowed money from the banks and financial institutions. The builders themselves have overstretched themselves, and they have borrowed from banks and then extended the property. So there's been a compounding offense on both sides sometimes. Nobody can do that today again, because that would be anti-RERA regulation. The banks are also more wary, because otherwise their EMIs don't come once the developer defaults in giving the product. So there is a second. And by and large, if you see, even till today, defaults for home loans in India is less than 2%. So, I mean, I don't see that as a problem. But of course, I see Noida, Greater Noida, and developers, of course, all over country, but they're all very little. I think the total number of apartments across India, which is in difficulty, equals Noida and Greater Noida. So, you know, the capital certainly takes the cake.
So there you are. If you do your due diligence, if you are responsible when you're buying, if you do all the research, and there are many means to do research, you should not be in trouble. The industry bodies are working with governments, with the banking and regulators, trying to figure out how this whole system can be eased. The good news is that projects are actually going through to completion. Yes, there are problem pockets, but there are also organizations like NAREDCO, ASSOCHAM, and of course Mr. Hiranandani is always there to check out that these things also come through. Thank you for watching The Property Show. Please subscribe to Magic Bricks on YouTube and click the bell icon to get new videos.